But I think there's other analogies that are better. Apartheid South Africa, how the world denormalized, demonized, put sanctions on South Africa for its policies of apartheid. It was a racist system, to be sure, but South Africa didn't go around the world killing thousands of people like the virus has. Still sanctions, and more importantly, turning them into a pariah state. Can we learn from that? I mean, isn't China a pariah state? Oh, and the Communist Party is, by the way, heartily racist in their words and deeds. Ethnic cleansing in Tibet, imprisonment of Uyghur Muslims, murders of Falun Gong, abuse of Christians, just to name a few. Shouldn't we treat them like South Africa? Should we even treat them like Nazis? I mean, Mao Zedong did kill between 50 and 80 million souls. I've seen estimates as high as 85 million dead. That's more than Hitler killed. But Hitler attacked the world. Mao murdered his own people, mainly. No, I don't think going to war is the answer. I think the best stance is to take a Cold War approach. China, like the old Soviet Union, is large and nuclear armed. You can't attack it. You can't ignore it, but you can denormalize it, speak truth to power about it, and make sure you are never dependent on it. We can undo favors to it. We can recognize Taiwan as an independent country, something to our deep discredit that hasn't been done by the free world in a generation. We can encourage our companies to leave China, preferably to come back home, but at least somewhere else. Japan is even offering to pay its companies to get out. That's a good idea. It's cheaper than the alternative, isn't it? And address the reasons why companies went there in the first place. A factory is a factory. It's capital-intensive, high-tech machines. Was it something else that drove factories to China besides just cheap labor? Maybe too much red tape here at home, too much hassle. I don't know, but let's bring our factories home with carrots as possible, like Japan is doing, but with sticks too. Tariffs on anything made in China. And use that money from the tariffs to help pay for the reshoring of companies that do come back. Do you really like the fact that we are held hostage by China for most of our medicines that's made in China? For medical equipment, I don't like that one bit. I think we have to clean out China's influence in global institutions too, or since that is likely impossible, simply create new institutions for democracies only. Why does China have a veto at the UN Security Council? Why is China on the UN's Human Rights Commission and other commissions like that? Why does China, the virus infector, run the World Health Organization? Why ask why? Why not just do what Trump is musing about doing and just defund them?
We want to look into a World Health Organization because they really are, they called it wrong. They called it wrong. They missed the call. They could have called it months earlier. They would have known. And they should have known, and they probably did know. So we'll be looking into that very carefully, and we're going to put a hold on money spent to the WHO. We're going to put a very powerful hold on it, and we're going to see. It's a great thing if it works, but when they call every shot wrong, that's no good.
Defund them, and how about starting new institutions for liberal democracies? Not useless talk shops that simply demonize democracies and run cover for dictatorships. Let the UN move its headquarters to Wuhan and give a new democratic institution its office space in New York. And let's do what Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher and Pope John Paul II did to the Soviet Union. Let's speak truth to power. Let's call them out all the time. Let's denormalize them. And let's quietly support dissidents. Reagan and the West supported the Polish Solidarity Labor Union that helped undo the Soviet Union, Lech Walesa. Obviously, the Pope himself visited Poland and had a massive outdoor mass, more than 1 million Poles, and he told them, be not afraid, and so they weren't afraid anymore. Let's do that sort of thing to China. Let's unhook ourselves from China industrially, financially. Let's root them out. Let's send home many of the 100,000 Chinese nationals at our Canadian universities. Let Canadian kids into those college spaces and stop the massive technology transfer and outright industrial espionage conducted by some of that group. But not all of those Chinese students are bad people, of course not. Again, this isn't a war against the Chinese people, but the 100,000 Chinese elites who are going to our schools, they're not regular, random Chinese people. They're the sons and daughters of privilege, the children of Communist Party officials in many cases. Why are they here anymore? As we've shown you, too many of these students have in fact stolen Canadian industrial secrets, including virus secrets, as happened just last year. The police had to get involved. Sorry, this is hard to do because we've gone so far the wrong way. So much of our lives is made in China. Our computers, are made in China. Our cell phones are made in China. Half the junk at Walmart and Canadian Tire is made in China. Our medicines are made in China. But you know, our pandemic was made in China too, and so was the cover-up. It was made in China. The danger still comes from China. Let's at least start acting like it, and maybe one day, like Poland, the Chinese people will be free. That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.